I think that's about the level of haze that you find with some of those great brewers. I can't believe we're talking about the level of haze right now.
Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C, Certified Brewhead.
And I'm Scott Beer, cold beer enthusiast.
And welcome to Beer and Other Shit, the podcast, episode 52. And today we are here in Ottawa, Tooth and Nail, with you founder or head brewer or owner? What's the...
Founder, co-owner, head brewer.
Everything.
Janitor.
Mate. Pleasure, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for
really
sure.
Cheers,
man. Of course. So
this is our first time... this is my first Tooth and Nail beer, actually,
Great.
ever. So I'm very excited. This is fantastic. And we're here at the brewery now in... what's this area called?
Hindenburg.
Oh, yeah. We stayed around the corner.
Yeah, we're
purpose.
Great.
So, like,
purposely Airbnb.
Where the breweries are at.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, man, let's start with the beers.
Yep.
We were all drinking something different. Generally, for the podcast, we would all drink the same thing.
Okay.
Not today. We're being difficult.
Yep. Switch it up.
Let's be difficult.
Yeah. Talk. What do you got there?
I've got our Pilsner, Vim and Vigor.
Okay.
Vim and Vigor is like an extension of everything that I love about the Pilsner style. We make it very hoppy, all German ingredients, really hopped highly on the back end. It's got a firm bitterness. And a lot of people don't understand that these European hops and Pilsners in general should give you a really nice floral, hoppy, aromatic experience.
Right.
And, so many Pilsners in the world now have just, throughout the last century, have been dumbed down to just blonde
lagers,
fizzy
basically.
lagers,
Yeah,
which, have their
really
place. But why would you do that when you can make it taste so good with the hops?
So this is a dry hopped Pilsner?
We don't dry hop it anymore. We played around with that for a little bit, and we found that just the hop itself, by giving it all late addition in the kettle, gave the beer more finesse.
Okay.
The dry hop version is nice, but it's a beer style that needs to have finesse.
Right.
And it became a little bit coarse and a little bit grassy, so we said forget it and like it the way it is. Yeah.
Straight up and down. Fantastic. Yeah. And what does Scotty got
I'm
there?
drinking Streif, which is, I thought, a really cool mix of, it was Brett, wheat, and IPA. So it's almost like 3 different styles of beer thrown together.
Kind of, yeah. So we dreamed this up. We did a charity event for an organization called Ski for Kids.
Okay.
And people bid on an auction item that we gave. And the auction item was us making a beer with 10 people and designing it with a World Cup ski racer, Dustin Cook. Mm-hmm. And their experience was to hang out with him for the day, come brew a beer for the day.
Wow.
And the group themselves wasn't really too... up to speed on different beer styles. So right. Dustin being a huge beer geek and me being a huge beer geek, we kind of dreamed this thing up, and it came out so well last year we decided to make it again.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's sick. And this bad boy here is the Solo Mission.
Yeah.
Single hop pale ale.
That's it. And this version we're using a brand new hop from Germany called Ariana. Really, really cool hop. Still has some kind of finer German character, but all at the same time you get this real nice white grapefruit, gooseberry, a little bit of wine gum in the background. That seems to have dissipated with age a little bit.
Okay.
But really well-rounded hop with firm bitterness. Not too aggressive, still a little on the aggressive side, but
yes.
We make this beer different every time just to learn. It's brewer's education that the public gets to drink.
Right.
I love that.
When you say you make it different, so that's actually some topic that we've brought up
We've
a bunch
talked
with
about,
brewers, because it's fascinating to us. So over time, generally, beers evolve. So are you referring to this version, or are you saying because it's probably your single hop series?
It's part of the single hop series, yeah. So that
Is it the same
recipe has not changed since the first day we made it.
From the base at least.
We have to change the hopping because you have different intensities of hops, but all the timings are the same.
Okay.
Just the quantities. The flavor and aroma addition always has to stay the same. If we use any bittering addition, that's the one that kind of evolves in quantities.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes, it's the same recipe every time.
Right.
And that way, we get used to that recipe. We introduce the hops. We don't over-hop this beer. It's still a pale ale. I think there's a lot of misconception that pale ale should be hoppy as shit. And it's like, well... It's hop character, but
Right,
let's
doesn't
not
have to be overwhelming.
That's it. Yeah. So
Well, I've actually had this beer. I got it in my first beer mail, my first beer trade from
Yes.
R&D Beer guys.
Yes.
Oh, no
out
way.
of Toronto and Ottawa. Yeah, so I had it last week. Was really impressed with it. I found there's such a crushability to it. Like some of these overwhelming palate wrecking pale ales or IPAs are kind of like, okay, I'll have one, I'll enjoy it, on to the next. This was like I was thirsty for more. It went down so smooth.
Yeah.
That's how we
Great summer
design.
beer.
We honestly design all of our beers for drinkability. I love all kinds of beer. There are a couple of styles I don't dig on. That's fine. Everyone's got their palate.
of course.
But to me, we want them to be clean, crisp, dry, refreshing, drinkable, no matter what the style is.
Right.
And there's some misconception out there. Sometimes people think you need sweetness to balance bitterness, and of course you do, but you still want things to finish dry. You want them to go down easily. That's the whole point of drinking beer,
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we should, just to get it out the way, people really like to hear your beer story.
Okay.
So how did you get into beer, and how did you end up owning this bad boy?
Oh shit, it's actually a pretty long story.
How many beers do we have to go through to get through this story? Yeah.
No, it's too bad. So, yeah, I mean, even as a little kid, I liked drinking beer. I didn't drink beer as a kid. That came out wrong. But I was always attracted to beer. And I went to university at Bishop's University in Lennoxville, Quebec, and I got a job at the local bar, which was a brew pub, and the job was DJing.
Is that the one in Sherbrooke?
Yeah,
Yeah,
in Lennoxville, just outside
That's
of
what it was called.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, I started this job DJing, and it wasn't like, I didn't have like turntables
Skill.
or anything. I'm just like playing
Like
music.
cutting and stuff.
And I got
Yeah.
paid with two $20 bills and 2 pitchers of the house-made beer.
Okay.
Winning.
And I was like, at the time I was buying Wildcat Dry for $10 a 12-pack at the gas station.
that.
And
I've never even heard of it.
that was
man,
my
I
university
remember that.
beer, and
Yeah.
then I started drinking this other kind of house-made craft beer. I guess they weren't using that term at the time, but I was like, this is wicked. Like it left something, Wildcat Dry, Molson Dry, all these like no aftertaste. And I
Yeah.
was like, but I fucking want aftertaste.
Yeah, that's
and so I kind of developed a taste for beer then. And then, back then I was probably like, wouldn't it be cool to own something like this? And then left it. And then, I was professional ski bum for 5 years in BC. And then I left that because I needed to get on with life. And now I realize I was actually living at that time. Now I'm working. But then I was going to be a teacher. I went and taught in Japan. I traveled around Asia a little bit. And then I was going to be an urban planner. And the girl I was seeing at the time was living in Toronto, so after Japan I moved back to Toronto, and I really didn't want to live there, and I really didn't want to work in a restaurant. I really didn't want to do these things, and ended up finding a restaurant I did want to work at, which is Beer Bistro downtown Toronto.
King Street.
Yeah.
On King Street. And so I walked in there one day thinking, this is going to be like one of these corporate ventures and whatever, and I looked at the beer list and I was like, wow, these guys, this is actually cool.
Yeah.
So I went up and I applied for a job there, and I got the job, and then I started really getting into the beer. I mean, they had beer school there, and I was like, this is incredible, right? You sit and drink beer, and people tell you history and all about it. So I just started learning. Then I started teaching the program, and through this all, I was like, struggling to figure out what the hell to do with myself. And I was sitting, actually visiting Ottawa at the time, sitting with a friend of mine in the corner of a yacht club, and I was like depressed, and he was like, look dude, he's like, you've been good at 2 things in your life, skiing and drinking beer, and he's like, skiing clearly is not working out, so why don't you think about going to brewing school? And I was like, well, I didn't grow up in an environment where like being a brewer was a life choice that you could actually make, and I was like drinking this, it was a Hogarden, I remember the exact beer, and I was like, well, somebody made this, so why can't I do this? And I was always really heavily into cooking, and just desk job was never going to work for me. So then I just kind of looked into it. I went and I did 3 internships in 3 different countries. I went and worked a week at Avery Brewing Company in Colorado. I went and worked a week at Fuller's in London. And I went and worked a week at Cantillon in Brussels. And after doing that, I was like, I'm sold. This is exactly what I want to do.
Yep.
And so I enrolled in the American Brewers Guild in Vermont, went to school, and then started brewing professionally. And there was never a moment where this wasn't the goal.
This was the end game.
It was
from the
always
beginning.
the end game from the beginning. And so, we got open 1.5 years ago after writing a business plan and setting it up for 2.5 years. And off to the races.
So where does the name Tooth and Nail come from? Is there a meaning behind it?
Yeah, there's a huge meaning behind it. I mean, it came to me in the shower one day when I was listening to some song, and they might.
Did you have a shower beer in hand? Though, is the question.
Chances are good. I don't really remember.
I'd certainly hope so.
Yeah.
But the name Tooth and Nail is like, it's a total homage to the earliest craft breweries. Right. So Sierra Nevada, Anchor, Sam Adams, I'm sure I'm missing a few. And the whole theme is like they had to fight tooth and nail just to get a bar owner to put this weird fucking beer on.
Yeah.
Or they had to fight tooth and nail just to, get someone to put the beer on their shelf or any of these things, right? So that's really where it comes from. Yeah. And then you can even think more locally in terms of Ottawa, Like when BAOS started in 2006, they had to fight tooth and nail just to get a bar owner to take this weird local beer, right? So it's really, without all those people paving the way, this probably wouldn't have been a possibility.
It speaks to the struggle of new craft beer owners coming up in the game and fighting against the large macro conglomerates and, like you said, fighting tooth and nail to get ahead and get their name out there.
Yeah.
How long has Tooth and Nail been an establishment in the Ottawa beer scene?
We opened a year and a half ago.
Okay, so you're fairly new on the scene.
Fairly new on the scene, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on the Ottawa beer scene? Because being like Scott lives in Toronto, I'm in Montreal.
Sure.
So we're both pretty familiar with those scenes. But I feel like Ottawa keeps coming up now, and I feel like there's really something happening.
There's somewhat of an explosion happening.
For sure, something happening here. It's an exciting place to be. It's exciting. Like, I'll be quite frank with you. I think that the beer culture in Ottawa is lagging a little bit behind Montreal and Toronto. But I think that's a massive opportunity. Because I lived in Toronto when that started to blow up. Now I'm living through this blowing up again, and it's really, really cool. It's such an exciting place to make beer. The community in Ottawa is very, very supportive of all things Ottawa.
Right.
And I think 2 breweries opened like last week. I know one did, and one's opening maybe in a month, and that'll tip us over 30 breweries within an hour drive of downtown.
Wow. That's crazy.
So it's a really exciting scene. It's a young scene, and I think that you're going to see some really great things starting to pop up. We've got some great breweries, and I don't know everybody yet. I mean, we moved back to Ottawa, opened the brewery, had another kid. I don't even go out at night. So, we met up with all the Ottawa breweries about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I mean, I met half of them and didn't meet the other half because the room was too packed. But super supportive community.
Is it so it's not crazy close-knit yet because it's so new?
I would say that's probably fairly accurate. But there is a huge desire to become close-knit right now. Like, we're loving seeing each other out at different events and things like that. I'm getting to know other brewers better, and everybody genuinely seems to be pretty excited to get together and have a pod.
This event must be great for it. Having it in Ottawa, bringing everyone together.
It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Have
Get to know each other's names.
explored any possibilities with anyone for collabs, even if it's out of province, out
in
of
Ottawa,
city?
or
period?
Well, we did about 5 recently, and I'm kind of done.
Can you?
We had your Sawdust collab. We quite liked
the
it.
Dust Up.
So this Dust Up,
Old-fashioned Dust Up. It's a rustic pale ale, 5.3%.
Cool. Oh, it's a collab with Tooth and Nail.
Yes, there you go.
I have never had Tooth and Nail. They are an Ottawa-based brewery who, from what I understand, are one of the most firest
of the
brewery of all the flames in Ottawa. Never tried them.
Can-conditioned.
Ooh.
Dust Up we brewed in December to release in May. So
yeah, I guess that's when we got it. Yeah.
Pretty long fermentation on that one. Next week, I think June 3rd. We're releasing our first ever collaboration with Great Lakes Brewery. Lackey came down here about 3 weeks ago, and we had a good time and made a really cool beer. Yeah, it's in the tank over there.
Can you tell
you guys are nice. I'll
give us a little.
give you a little sample.
Sample.
Yeah, well, it was really funny because I think Mike and I, we don't know each other that well, but we're pretty much cut from the same cloth as
Mike
far as
Great Lakes.
Yeah, as far as brewing goes, and I was surprised to hear that both of us kind of find the New England / Vermont / Northeastern IPA craze to be a little bit ridiculous.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that. We're
And
gonna talk about
so we decided, screw it, let's make one ourselves. So we went ahead and did that.
that. Okay, because
We're fanboys a little
We're
bit.
obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, if it's not
and,
easy,
and
and
people
I get it's a
are
trend and it's-
obsessed
yeah,
with it.
yeah.
It's crazy.
how do you, okay, so yeah.
Him more so than me, but we're
Like,
kind of.
now we're talking about it. Like we judge a beer. If I look at it,
It's not hazy. He's like, he
that's
doesn't get
become the
excited about
baseline.
it. Right.
But I'm genuinely enjoying this. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But the first thing when you told me about this beer, what did you tell me about it?
I said it was
completely clear.
I'm like, it's
That was
so
the first thing
clear.
you said.
Yeah,
but
just because
but
we're
not
on
in a
it's-
negative thing. But it was
Sure.
like it was a fun. We realized last night. We're like, man, we're judging beers
Based on the
the
haziness,
clarity
yeah.
or the lack thereof.
That's the thing I don't get. And the other thing I don't get is, and no offense to you guys.
No,
yeah,
I don't understand, because this happens all the time. And even like
trends,
Sam Corbett at Sawdust is like, I get hate mail when our IPA falls too bright. It's like, it's
Yeah.
insane. The one thing that people don't really grasp is that haze carries flavor.
Yeah.
And that flavor is actually almost always less desirable if it's in there. So there are some theories that some of this haze can suspend hop oils and keep them
Yeah,
more in
proteins or
suspension.
something. Right.
Things like that, sure. But I don't love filtered beer. I generally like bright beer because I find that the hop flavors are far cleaner, far more agreeable. The bitterness becomes a flavor as opposed to an aggression.
Okay.
There's less tannin and astringency. I generally just find them to be a more pleasurable drinking experience. Now, that being said, I've had some of these IPAs coming out of the Northeast that have blown my mind. I've had some that you could pitch into a fermenter and start fermenting a new beer with, because
Right.
I don't want to drink a cup full of yeast.
Right.
It's gonna it's
any-
awful.
Any specific
I was gonna
names
say, can you call anything
Yeah,
out?
can you call
Can
like
you-
the-
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really, because I haven't had that many of them, and
Right.
usually when they get brought to me, it's a gift from somebody. And when you
not
get
gonna
involved in
trash
running the brewery, and no, it has nothing to do with that. It's just I pay far less attention to the brands of what I'm drinking than I used to.
Okay.
If something blows my mind, I'll probably remember what that beer was.
Why is that?
Just because life is just busy, man.
You just don't have time for that.
No, and I mean, people bring us beer all the time in here.
imagine.
Thank you, everybody. We love it. It's great for us to keep up on what's going on in the industry. But I honestly just don't remember a lot of what I've had. I do notice there is a big difference between, a beer that Sean Hill made or a beer that
Like John Kimmich.
John Kimmick
Yeah.
made, versus the new school. I have to suspend as much haze in this beer as
Right.
possible.
Yeah.
Like, look at Hill Farmstead's IPAs are hazy, but they're like, they're like
Right.
that.
They're not like
Right?
mud.
They're not
Yeah,
mud.
Yeah.
And I've also grown to not really care so much anymore. If
Right.
people want to brew their beer that way and it tastes good, who am I to say that that's a bad thing to do? The craze over the hazy IPAs is weird. I mean, when you're a brewer and you have to occasionally check your Untapped page, it's like the most infuriating
What are they
thing.
saying?
That
People are saying, oh, it needs to be hazy. Where's the hazy
Yeah.
stuff?
there's that stuff for those beers. There's all kinds of shit
Right.
on Untapped that is just like mind-blowingly difficult to look at. But yeah, I mean, like people saying, well, the beer was better when it was hazy, and it's like, well, no, it's the same beer. It's just a
Yeah.
visual. It's just suspended proteins. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
it's just interesting to me. So Mike and I kind of, I think, felt the same way about those styles of beer, and yet we've had some really, really good ones. And the thing that really fascinated me was the brewing techniques for making a beer like that are so ass backwards from conventional brewing wisdom.
Right.
And so it was a really cool challenge to try all these new processes. Now, one thing I can tell you is like, this is by far the most expensive beer I've ever made.
Oh, for sure.
Just the
You
sheer
know,
volume of
Yeah.
hops,
it
right?
is
Like,
insane. It is unsustainable.
yes, and it's like a
And-
short shelf life. It's milk.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
it.
that's part of the appeal, though.
That
I think it
is.
is. Well, I think it's part of the craze because people now understand that, and
Yes.
so they'll line up and rush out and do pre-orders and
And also
pre-sales.
because it's so
and-
expensive, they're not making as much because they got to get rid of it fast because
Yeah.
it's so perishable.
That's it.
And people are. That's why you see like lineups out the door.
That's it.
I don't think it happens too much in Canada. I mean,
that's like trillion.
Well, like I've said, there's only a few breweries.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That are really doing
in the States, it's huge. Though. There's lineups at all these breweries, at Fiddlehead and at Alchemist.
We don't get lineups in Ottawa too often.
Well,
so.
I can't.
People
think of
always ask me, "Do you have a bottle limit?" I'm like, we started putting. I think one of our first like bottle releases, we put a bottle limit on it, and that beer was in house for like 2.5 months.
Right.
Like, why am I
so
putting
like,
a bottle?
if it's in the
limit on
fridge, you
this?
can
That's
go
it.
ahead. You're gonna pay for it, take it.
I think it's more like there's one brewery in Toronto that did something intense recently. That had
Yeah,
like,
it's the
people
first
lining
lineup I've ever seen in Toronto. Yeah.
Well, Bellwoods used to always get lineups.
That's who we're
Yeah.
about,
I mean, that's nothing
Yeah.
new.
But I feel like
I
the
mean-
milkshake specifically, because that's the other thing. Like all these trendy beers, I don't know why. Like I feel like we talk about it all the time. Like I feel like we bought into it because we're looking on Instagram and there's all these beers that you
Sure.
don't have access to, and it's so desirable because you can't get it.
Sure.
So then, like, no one in Canada was really doing these Northeast IPAs. I feel like Sawdust did Juicing was one of the first,
Yep.
from what I understand.
Yep.
And then Dominion did Sunsplit.
Yep.
And now
I mean, they're
feel like
good
it's coming
beers.
up
Like,
now.
I hope you don't get me wrong by any means.
No. Yeah.
Dude, everyone's it's personal like preference. It's not like
Well,
who
and
gives a
some
shit.
of us guys, need to get over it and realize that things come and go and trends
It's a
change.
trend, man.
and
Like
that's
I
it.
really think it's a legitimate pendulum swing from the West
Well,
Coast.
then there was
gang.
the palate wrecking
That's
IPA
because that's what we
Imperial
cared
IPA.
about.
Absolutely.
I was like, if this doesn't like blow, if I can't feel my tongue, if I
That's right.
can feel my tongue, I don't like it. So now it's the opposite. Now I want it to look like and taste like
Be
orange
sweet
juice.
orange juice. Yeah.
And something about it is extremely attractive. And like when I first had juice, I was like, oh, that's not what I expected. Like
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
And then as I started having other ones, and then I had it again, I'm like, oh, this is great.
yeah.
And then starting appreciating, and then we went to Vermont, and like nearly every beer there is hazy.
Is hazy,
It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, my brewer just brought some back
Vermont
from
style is
Burlington
Yeah,
Brewing
Burlington.
Company, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, BBC. Oh, they're like killing it right now.
Yeah.
My boy was telling me yesterday that there's one called Foam.
Yes,
there
we
now. He said-
meant to go to
there,
Foam.
like,
Yeah.
bro, dude, he was telling me that he's like Foam made this other beer. He goes, it's better than Hill Farm. Says better than literally every. I don't know if he was like boosting
Picking it
a bit
up,
there,
yeah.
but,
Right.
They're in
like, I feel like
Burlington, right? They're down.
Foam's like on the waterfront.
On the waterfront in Burlington,
We
yeah.
didn't get there.
Oh, it's beautiful there.
But,
man.
been?
oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, in Burlington, yeah.
Yeah,
Burlington's
yeah,
We
yeah,
didn't get to
yeah.
Foam
I
specifically.
love it.
I've been in the summer and the winter, and it's a four seasons type of place. You
Yeah.
want to be there all year round.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. But it's just so interesting to see, like, to us anyway, at least from like as beer fans or whatever, and we're documenting our little like journey through it all, like looking at what the Americans are doing, and then on this side of the border, just the uptake has been
Yeah.
a lot slower in comparison. But now I feel like it's all of a sudden starting. I feel like I don't know,
kinda
with
doing
the
this.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to catch up,
And the quality is getting better and better. I mean, I'm probably too notorious for bitching about the lack of quality beer available to us with so many breweries available in this province.
Oh, so you speak Ontario specifically?
I mean, I
or
can speak
Ottawa?
about a lot. No, I'm just speaking Ontario in
Yeah,
general,
yeah.
which is probably an
Like stepping
unfair thing for me to say, but
I can see where it came from, but
I just don't like it. I know people personally who have gone out and tried X, Y, or Z's beers and been like, oh, it was so bad, I'm just going to stick to my Molson.
Wow.
And it's like, that sucks for us, right?
Yeah.
You guys want me to pour you a sample of this? If
Yeah, do you know
we're gonna
what?
Take a
yeah,
break?
we can do that,
We can
yeah.
take a break. We
Yeah,
can keep
we-
talking. Yeah, grab it and bring it back.
Sure, yeah.
So that makes me very happy that
Oh, and this is the...
that you guys are doing that.
Yes, this is awesome.
Yeah.
With respect to kind of our attitude towards these beers, we kind of use the same attitude for the
Oh, that's the
label,
can
and
for it?
that's the label.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Now, is that going to be sold exclusively here, or between-
We're gonna send kegs out to bars across Ontario,
nice.
but the cans will only be here.
That's hilarious. We're gonna
Hopefully, I
have
can
to
get
some
Mike
of
down here for it.
Yes, that's amazing.
those. Broke the bank for that one, right?
Yeah, no problems. We'll keep ourselves busy
Yeah.
in the meantime. So that makes me really happy that that they're doing the hazy stuff, and I feel him. Like I feel like it's.
Like I get it's a trend. Like
No, he
it's,
doesn't need to apologize.
Yeah,
for me.
yeah,
Like, everyone has a taste preference,
Sure.
right? And you and I have bought into the trends, and we don't, and that's okay. Like we don't own a brewery, so we don't have the same level of like. Okay, so he's saying he doesn't like to or doesn't monitor what he drinks, whereas like I review every single
Right.
one, so I know everything.
I guess as a brewery owner, you're more concerned about your own beer than what everyone else
things
is.
to do,
yeah.
right? And you have your taste profiles. He's been into beer, it sounds like, for quite some time now. I feel like we were talking. I've met a bunch of brewers from different sort of not age groups as much who've been in the game longer, and some people who've been in the game longer aren't really into the trendy stuff. They kind
Right.
of like their beer a certain way. So it's like life. You figure out what you like.
I guess
and
my
you
thing,
run
what I
with it.
expect from a craft brewer is to be able to make make a lineup of beers that hit kind of every category.
Yeah.
Because I want a pilsner, like a authentic Czech or German style pilsner.
Yeah.
I also want a big huge IPA. Then I want something a little more laid back. I want kind of a little bit of everything. I expect that from a craft brewer because it's not, some places make one beer, others make a whole lineup, and I kind of want to sample a little bit of everything personally.
A bit of it all. Exactly.
Okay, well,
All right, so this is called
This is Happy Ale.
So the
Yeah,
Great
straight
Lakes-
from the fermenter, uncarbonated.
nice.
We've got some haze in there. We didn't want a
Definitely.
milky beer by
Yeah.
any means.
Definitely.
I think that's about the level of haze that
Smells
you find with some of
juicy.
those great brewers. I can't believe we're talking about the level of haze right now. Whether
we're
it's
done to
appropriate, I don't know.
sit
Yeah,
down for a little bit. We're
I'm feeling like an old man right now.
Can
Cheers,
you?
guys.
Cheers, yeah.
Thank you.
Let's give it a try. That is juicy.
Yeah, it's great.